the moral, the ethical, the intellectual, the astral, the cosmic, the celestial, house not made with hands.
The alchemical axiom or principle of vitriol. Visita interiora terrae, rectificando inveniis occultum lapidum. Visit the interior of the earth, and rectifying therein, you will find the hidden stone.
You know, if you don't transmute yourself first, you will transmute nothing.
The axiom of fixing the volatile and volatilizing the fixed.
Being able to weave hermetic principles into our social fabric.
Filling in the fractal spaces till we get to the most rarefied abstract plane of the celestial realm.
You know, that's alchemy, that's understanding nature.
Question everything.
Symbols are far beyond words, right? Symbols are the touch point where the mind enters into the sublime, incomprehensible, translinguistic depths of a direct connection with the ultimate that I would refer to as the divine.
There is truth in the Western esoteric traditions. It has been contributed to and refined and evolved over the course of millennia by what we can conceive universally to be the greatest minds to ever exist.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Philosophical Minds Podcast, an exploration of all things philosophical, alchemical, and esoteric. From the psycho-spiritual to the material-chemical nature of the all, join me and my guests as we inquire into the liminality of mind and matter, and tend to the fertile soils of awareness and perception, while facilitating an expanded consciousness from the individual to the collective. Thank you all, and let's get into it.
Answers to both of these questions are the same thing. It's all about the secret fire and understanding what that is and how to integrate it with other solvents or with your own solvents. I think that's the tough part that we're working on at the moment in our lab. I think, you know, we know where we're going.
That's exciting. Yeah. So are there any other particular philosophical extraction techniques that you feel like would be cool to touch on? Or
yeah, just give me 1 second, I'll do that. I'm just noticing my...
Take your time.
What was the question?
Philosophical extraction techniques.
Well, I mean, yeah. What can be said? I think that, well, I'll say this. I think where I've been, we've been looking at the most complete way to extract our profiles from our plants. At the same time as doing that, you know, I'm constantly exploring the path of Mercury. And obviously those two things are in relationship. From a biochemical perspective, it's pretty well established that the best solvent that's non-toxic, that's not made out of disgusting synthetics, is ethyl acetate. Ethyl acetate's probably used by most molecular biologists or chemists or toxicologists as, you know, the gold standard for a non-toxic, quote unquote, fully removable solvent that extracts both polar and non-polar compounds very efficiently. And I think that's a big clue, right? That's ethanol and that's acetic acid. And I think there is so I think, you know, we're all in the place of understanding acetic acid and ethanol. And I think that where we're coming to now in the community is the salts and the salts' power and relationship with solvents. And that it's a crucial part. So I think imbuing, I mean, what we're talking about is imbuing we're talking about imbuing philosophical mercury, or philosophical mercury needs to be understood to contain the secret fire. And that's where we need to go. And scaling that is difficult.
And
that's about how I can say what I can.
Ethyl acetates, would you say, is it something that's universally arrived at, or are there any differences in terms of production of ethyl acetate between standard chemist methods and alchemical methods?
Yeah, sorry. Ethyl acetate is not interchangeable with philosophical menstruum, but it is an interesting, as looking at the chemicals, looking at it from a molecular perspective allows you to draw some conclusions in that ethyl acetate as a compound used by non-philosophically trained people is very efficient at the extraction, because of the ionic.
And so when you refer to like the path of Mercury, are you speaking basically to menstruums in general? Yes. Yeah. I just have this one question that I wondered might be, something I haven't really been able to find much insight into, but there's some different, like, I guess, paths, and I don't know if they're referring to paths to the stone or what, but there's like a cinnabar path, and then I think there's like a niter path. And I don't know if I've been able to find much on that. So I don't know. I was just kind of curious if you had any insight or thoughts on that.
I mean, maybe I've got some cultural insight because I'm from Australia. There's kind of, there's these different parts. And I mean, I sort of joined the alchemy community through the revolution that happened in America with Fray Albertus's lineage. And the Fray Albertus lineage is mainly concerned with the acetate path, and aqua regia and those sorts of things. And then you have and I think I find in the community, this is really interesting that we're starting to cross-pollinate a lot more right now. It's like the time where the stars are at, it's sort of, we're coming into this really exciting position where the different lineages are starting to cross-pollinate. There's some secrets in the niter path that, is very much more well-respected in the Spanish or Portuguese speaking lineages. The cinnabar path more so in the French, the people of nature down through that lineage. And so most of what we're exposed to, I think, in the West is Albertus's lineage predominantly, through people like Robert Bartlett and, the others that have taught it. Would I say one is superior? I mean, you absolutely can't say. I think, a good, the guy to talk about this to would be Ben from Temple of Mercury.
Love Ben.
Up to that conversation. And he's I won't speak for him, but he's definitely experimented with some of the other parts. I'm very much the majority of my work physically in the lab has been in the botanical kingdom, metallically only acetate path. And I'm very enamored by the acetate path. I really love it because of its correspondences to the traditional myth and religious texts and the Kabbalah and all of this. I find that's why I'm so attracted to the acetate path. I like the order.
Viticulture type terminology and stuff like that.
Yeah, the wine. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Ripley is an incredibly interesting character. And that, the Norton Ripley lineage is definitely, separates from that. That predates Albertus and separates from his lineage a little bit. It's not what Freda Albertus taught is not in complete alignment with that body of work, which I think is, I mean, for any of that, I think one of my favorite books on that subject, and I encourage anyone who's interested in acetate path alchemy to read The Experimental Fire. It's a great book that gives many references to other very important texts. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, really, I can only talk about acetate path alchemy. I do know one thing that's interesting about the Niter path is the Book of Aquarius was released about, what was that, about 6 years ago? Do you know about that?
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, I've seen that around.
That was
It's like
basically
anonymous author or something like that.
yeah. I mean, that was basically a Niter path
Okay.
ish. Yeah. Which is worth reading. I mean, well, the urine path, the piss path, I call
The
it,
piss bath.
but humorously. Yeah.
Um,
Which is, I think, very valid as a.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's probably, I think that it's very likely that it is a viable path.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that to me, acetate and urine seem to be likely to be the most viable paths. Cinnabar path is very cool.
It is cool. I like it.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people go that way. And I'm like, I'm trying to resist
Just
that
for fun, it's cool.
I want to explore. Life is long, and I've got some time to explore the acetate path before I dip into it. But I do enjoy reading it. I do enjoy reading about it. It's the code's very cool. It's more exciting. It's more explosive. There's more dragons.
hmm Yeah. Have you ever explored or gotten into any of the alchemical stuff with Raymond Lowell?
Yes.
Do you find you're able to glean some value off of it? I know like a lot of the texts are, well, I'm sure there's somewhere some more accessible translations. Um, but there's a large amount of his work that's still untranslated, at least in English, more publicly. I've seen some things with some texts that are attributed to him, at least, that seem very in depth and interesting. Um, but I think they were. I think they were there was I mean there was one in particular that had a lot of very interesting diagrams. But I think it was still Latin, but you could clearly kind of make sense of some of the words that were depicted and had like the secunda path or like not path, but the different differentiations, but the salt, sulfur, and mercury principle were all there too. And the common understanding is that the salt principle came about via Paracelsus. And so this was interesting to me because if it was true that if this was a genuine transmission from Raymond Lowell, that would indicate that that salt principle preceded Paracelsus in literature. And I just thought that that was really interesting, but I don't know if you've come across that.
Paracelsus, first of all, I'll say this. Paracelsus was not always a teacher. He began as a student. He learned everything he learned the majority of what he understood in the beginning of his career from other people, and he traveled very well. So it would not surprise me at all if the salt principle predated Paracelsus. Also, I think it's obvious in Paracelsus's character that he would likely attribute everything that he got to have come from his own investigations.
It's a very bombastic thing to do.
There you go. He was named for it. Yeah, I believe that Raymond Lull is the great priest of the acetate path. Definitely. Yeah. The experimental fire does cover quite a bit. I mean, Ripley and Norton are heavily associated with this. And for some understanding or context, they provide well in their books, especially Norton's The Key of Alchemy, which is hard to find. That's a very hard book to find. Raymond Lowell. I mean, yeah, that's the one. That's the one for me.
Awesome. Um, do you have an internet connection in your lab yet, or you're not sure?
Let me find out.
All right.
We're just about to find out.
Awesome. Cool. Once,
Yeah, you got something?
I was just gonna say, until we do, we can continue kind of riffing on some stuff if you want. But I was wondering if there was any other little insights or tidbits or just interesting, like, note things that you think are cool to note about maybe anything that you've come across maybe fairly recently that you can talk about or willing to talk about in terms of some alchemical uh revelations or just kind of things that you're excited about or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, yeah, in that realm, I've been reading Zachariah Stitchin again, so that's been fun.
that's a heavy stack right there.
Yeah, I got its complete works again. I don't know what. I think I lent them all out slowly, and then they disappeared. Um, so that's been fun, and I think very inspirational. Like I think it's a great read for someone who wants to be an alchemist because I think he was the greatest one, and there's a lot of great information in there. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. It's really good. Um, Not Zachariah, I mean Enki. Yeah. So I don't know. There's that.
Do you think
There's
Zachariah Sitchin was aware of that when he was authoring some of
aware
that
of
stuff?
what?
Aware of the alchemical connections?
Uh, I mean, that's kind of the interesting bit is the way he phrases some of those terms seems like he has no idea about alchemy,
Mm.
which gives more credence to what he's saying in my books because as someone who understands, you know, a little bit of the philosophical, you know, or the philosophies behind all of this stuff, and to see it written in like very poor translation that could only be faked if he knew very specifically about that which he was talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just very crude translations that are very obviously alchemical processes or alchemical call outs that he doesn't understand. So I like that. I think that's a really big part of why I like reading it. I think that's, I mean, that happened to me. I only ran into his work about 7 or 8 years ago when I'd already called my business Enki. And I started, yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. I'd already studied some alchemy. I'd studied spagyrics already. I'd read quite a lot of alchemical texts by then, and or more on the philosophical side than the practical laboratory side. And then was, you know, reading all of his work and being like, you know, this is wild. It all seemed very synchronistic to me to discover that after I called the business Enki. And yeah, so I guess I've been ebbing and flowing with that story a lot over the last 8 years and coming back into it over the last couple of months, settling on this land, building our lab, you know, getting our Garden of Eden happening. It's a cool time to be reflecting on all of that. Yeah. And exciting because it's sort of like, you know, we've got a big blank canvas here in this lab. We've got a lot of space to do a lot of stuff. We've got some big equipment to do bigger extractions. We're in midsummer now, so harvest's sort of starting to begin. We've got a lot of stuff to start distilling. It's going to be exciting. We're going to do goldenrod soon, and we'll produce some spagyric elixirs this year, which will be really fun. Like in a few months, we'll be selling some little 10 mil or 5 mil spagyric elixir vials. So that'll be fun.
Does your land or nearby or where you live, is there any access to black walnut?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
I don't know if this is like something else. I had gotten these capsules at one point with the primary ingredient was black walnut extract, and it was extremely focusing and I mean, honestly, it was almost kind of like Adderall-like, I guess I'd say. Like, I mean, in terms of like just being super conducive to focus and stuff like that. And I've ever since then been really interested in what that might be with black walnut. And I don't know if I think it might actually be the husks of it
Yeah,
that is used.
yeah, it is
Um,
black walnut extract, but I don't think that black walnut extract would give much of a
yeah.
psychoactive effect.
Maybe it was like one of those things where they like, put some other
Maybe,
stuff in it and kind of use that as like their
maybe it was maybe black walnut was the primary ingredient, but it wasn't the herb that was doing the heavy lifting. Maybe that was something
yeah.
else. Like I mean, walnut definitely has that. Has the symbiosis with the brain, but I don't know if I'd expect. I've drunk a lot of black walnut extract.
Okay.
Just,
Haven't had that kind of thing. Okay. Must have been something different then.
absinthe definitely gives me a good cerebral focused
Oh,
buzz.
really?
Traditionally made absinthe would be my go-to for that sort of
Mm,
thing. Some like lemon balm and fennel in there. Yeah.
yeah. What is I know that there are a lot of subtle differences in absinthe recipes. Do you have like a pretty standard one that you feel is the ideal
Yeah,
recipe?
I've got a good recipe. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, it's the key is wormwood. The key is using uh, absinthium wormwood.
Oh, it's
Artemisia
actually called Absinthia wormwood. Okay.
absinthium. Yeah. Which is, I think, illegal in some countries.
Hmm.
I'm sure it probably grows wild as well. Um, so there's that. Lemon balm, fennel, some licorice roots, cool. Some sarsaparilla is fun. Some blue lotus is good. I sort of mix. So my staples always fennel, lemon balm, licorice root, wormwood, absinthium. Something I'm missing there? Yeah, that's normally my staple. And then I play around with things like sarsaparilla, rhodiola, blue lotus, those sorts of things. Rhodiola gives a cool rose sort of terpene profile. Blue lotus is a bit psychoactive and mood enhancing. You can put mugwort in there too. But it's the wormwood, fennel, lemon balm axis that give you a really like focused thing going on. Yeah.
And do you have like particular ratios of each that are kind of dialed in, or is it you play with it sometimes, or?
It's pretty intuitive when I'm making it for myself.
Cool. Yeah.
Normally it happens normally I'll make it when I've been in the lab for a while. And then I'll make some knowing that I'm going to be in the lab for a while again tomorrow. And then I'll drink some the next day and it'll like keep me going for a bit. And then I won't make any more until I'm feeling fatigued in the lab again or feeling like, like not fatigued, but like mentally overdone. Yeah, overcooked,
Yeah.
which happens, I'm sure.
Does happen. Tends to happen. All right. Anything else that you're excited to? I mean,
Yeah.
let's.
The other one
Sorry.
was you asked about Ormus, right?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tie in that conversation about getting the solvent right is I think, and maybe this is cool. Like maybe next time I come on, I can like give you a bit more insight on my process because I guess that was
Hopefully.
a conversation. It was a part of it.
Yeah.
So where we're at now is um, creating the right salt slash solvent from, so traditionally Ormus is made with lye, which is sort of one part of the equation of what secret fire is, or what, a secret fire is definitely lye, but it's not just, you can't just buy, I mean, you can and you can't. Most people will say, like with the ENS extraction, for example, you can just buy a potassium carbonate, you can infuse it with niter, and boom, hey presto, you've got a philosophical solvent that extracts a really good ENS, which is partially true. It's better if you produce the lye yourself. But there's processes of purification that are spoken about a lot that aren't applied to commercially purchased lye that's then infused with niter or prana or whatever you want to say. So if you do these circulations with your lye, then you can increase its potential quite significantly. And I think with a product that's done correctly like that, especially if it's not just a unimolecule, like quote unquote pure potassium carbonate, philosophically prepared lye is a little bit different in a spectrum than just being potassium carbonate, right? So if you can do that and you can circulate it a bit and you can get it into a very powerful state, that's the ormus I want to see. And I think that that's not ormus is, it's a funny one because there's no alchemical text that talks about the manufacture of ormus. It is absolutely not an alchemical product, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
There's, if I'm missing something. However, it is spoken about. There is religious and mythical texts that refer to what we ascribe ormus as the thing that they're talking about, and it may be, mana. It's probably not. I can say that it is definitely not Celtic sea salt or sea salt transmuted or transformed somewhat by lye. I believe that there is something monoatomic going on. I believe that there is a transformation going on. I believe that it's on the right track, but I think that it's not complete. And it's a cool little accidental discovery. But alchemy rarely happens accidentally. One must really understand the cycles and the recipes of nature to be able to, recreate these things in a faster, controlled laboratory environment. And so I think that part of what's missing in ormus, and I'd like to experiment with it, and so that's where we are now. We're making those solvents, I want to say. We're making that fire at the moment. And as we're in midsummer, it's a good time to do it. We have the right, we've got a heap of sun here. We've got a heap of niter available. It's daylight from 5:30 a.m. to almost 10 p.m. here at the moment, or 6 a.m. to almost 10:30 p.m. So we're getting a lot of daylight hours at the moment, which is very powerful for these actions. So yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll do some salt, and we won't just do Celtic sea salt. We're going to do some ancient inland sea indigenous salt, and we'll see what that yields. And then I think that'll give us some more insight into what's happening with monoatomics created that way, because it's a catalytic conversion. Well, it's a catalytic reaction that we understand is within the realms of alchemical knowledge. Like we agree that it is, but why has it never been spoken about in the text? It's so simple and so obvious. It's far too simple and obvious to be that simple and obvious. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think we've got a really good way of seeing if we can. And there is some guys that have done it with more evolved alchemical procedures, that have made ormus with more evolved chemical procedures and tested it for gold and found that there's a fair and realistic practice there, but not just from salt with lye.
Yeah. Have you ever read a book called The Elixir of Immortality by Robert Cox? Or have you heard of that? Or have you heard of Robert Cox?
I've heard of Robert Cox, but I've never heard of the book.
Okay. I don't think I've read the whole thing, but
Robert E. Cox? Is that the same guy?
Robert E. Cox, yeah, that's the guy. He seems interesting though. I don't know I think he had something on ormus in there, but
Soul Body, Elixir of Immortality. Yeah, I know of Robert E. Fox, but I've never seen any of his books.
Yeah.
I have Soul Body. Okay, cool. So Immortality, is he talking about ormus?
I think he does in The Elixir of Immortality. And Robert E. Cox, C-O-X.
So he's a Vedic. He studied the Vedics, which is, and these are the guys that really like a lot of my insight into understanding the sort of conceptual understanding of metals that I have is coming from the Vedics. Their understanding of metals was very profound, and their operations vastly simpler than ours.
Hmm.
Their dry path applications are very profound, and very simple to understand if you can be instructed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I also want to say a caveat to that with Ormus is I have had experiences on reasonably simple Ormus productions before, and there's definitely something there, right? Have you experienced Ormus? Yeah.
No, I mean, not. I have consumed a few different versions or a few different Ormus products. But I wouldn't say that I can really pinpoint
Yeah. Okay.
any very like noticeable shift or
Yep.
things along these lines.
So for me, only once, only with one particular guy's Ormus who I
Hmm.
met at a festival. He spoke at he did a workshop there, and he ended up spending a lot of time at Enki. We had an installation and we became friends, and he shared with me his Ormus that he made himself, and he was a sound guy. He knew some things about sound, like some really cool things about sound. And his Ormus was quite profound for me. But other than that, I've never had an effect. It's just been like water.
Yeah.
What about your effects with philosophical gold extracts? Have you?
I think so. And it's always like I feel like sometimes in my life it's like things are always or not always, but there's often sort of uh how would I describe it? Like expansions or like yeah, like maybe like an
Yeah,
expanded consciousness type event or circumstantial like patterns
yeah,
that are more concentrated in certain time periods or things like this, like a resonance with that sort of psycho spiritual experience or something.
yeah.
And it's definitely the answer is definitely not no.
Mm.
So
But with almost, your answer was quite
I would
clearly
say
no.
with Ormus, yeah, it's yeah, I wouldn't say I
That's
can
that's
pinpoint it.
consistent with the data I've been able to retrieve from people and myself and my
Yeah.
community. Is that yeah the gold like oil of gold, which we must remember is only the sulfur.
Hmm.
This is not a complete spagyric of gold. This is oil of gold. So therefore, it's only giving you the soul lesson. It's only giving you like it's like smelling an essential, right? It's like you're only getting. So it's going to be subtle, right? It's a soul to soul. It's a soul communication from that metallic. Um, Creating a stone or something a bit more significant should be much more profound, right?
Right.
But even at such an incredibly subtle level, um, it's tangible.
Yeah.
Which
I would say for sure. There's a couple like interesting other instances I could say like, and actually it's not all of them, but some of the animal spagyrics products that I've had that I've gotten from Raven, Materia Artium. Not all of them, but some of them in particular have very noticeable
yeah,
correlatory uh event or even in terms of like what animal it is. There's like things that play out even within my own like biology or say like this. I think I had one serpent one. Like I've had a few different of the serpent ones and not really had anything noticeable, but like some instances it was like even just little subtle things in terms of like noticing my eating patterns or the way I'm digesting food or like I have this like sense of like a serpentine uh digesting type thing going on or something. Like
Like I had a traditionally prepared like from tribal guys cobra medicine when I was like 23, and like I'm year of the snake as well. Like I'm quite,
oh okay. Yeah.
definitely, and that sent me, bro. Like I was on another planet for a few days. Like not psychedelically, but like
Yeah.
my history was completely different for like a good few days, and the spirit of it stayed with me for a long time.
Yeah.
It's stuff. And Raven's work, I'm sure. I've never tried any of it, but I've been watching. And
Yeah, and then there was this tarantula one, which I was kind of like weary about taking.
yeah, animals
I was
there's a bit of fear around them. I think that's
because it's a
that's part.
lot of energy to accept or whatever. But it was actually that was one of the ones that really stuck with me, and I didn't even finish it, and it ended up drying out, and I wasn't able to take the rest of it. But it's like a intensely noticeable sense of the feeling of my environment or like sensations of my local surroundings and things like that. Like
Spidey
just
sense.
yeah.
That's
So that
cool.
one that's
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I think animal spagyrics can be. Yeah, I think they are very loud. They're very loud. I
Yeah.
think, and I think minerals can be very loud, but I think we're still learning as a like we're all yeah we've got a ways to go still. Um, yeah, I think what's cool is when we do have these, when more and more people have these very obvious results and effects from these extracts. I mean, and I think botanicals are really like botanicals are also quite loud. We
Yeah.
got to send you some frankincense and some blue lotus as well, so you can feel the vibes of those. They're quite powerful. Our blue lotus extract is that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I'd love to, man. Beautiful.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes before we can look at the lab.
Okay. So I want to ask you, what are some of the spagyrics or I mean plant medicines in general or just things that you've consumed that you feel have had like a pretty profound effect?
Yeah, for sure. Reishi has been very profound for me. I think Reishi is really great. I think because like I'm pretty nervous system upregulated. I'm very Vata. Frankincense as well in that same realm, like really amazing for nervous system downregulation, like grounding and calming and centering. So those two have been pretty monumental for me. Definitely my my lion's mane plus was a formula. I used to call it the cognitive formula. It didn't used to have lion's mane in it. It used to be Brahmi, Gotu Kola, and Ginkgo. And I was smashing that for like because I thought that I'd smoked too much weed in my early 20s and made myself a little bit stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So I started smashing cognitive formula. That's what I called it for about 2 or 3 years. And I would say my IQ noticeably rose over 2 or 3 years. Like really noticeably. Like I was quite intelligent when I was a kid. Like I was quite gifted as a high school kid. And then, weed and parties and booze and like not studying anymore and working and having fun and whatever and not using my brain went down. And then, yeah, I think cognitive formula definitely helped me regain that. It's probably time I got on it again. I haven't really worked with it consistently for about a year or two, but I'm still writing that. So that's been powerful. And then adding the lion's mane to it was cool. But like for me, really, the power of that formula is the other 3 herbs. Lion's mane's cool, definitely. But Brahmi and Gotu Kola and Ginkgo, very, very cool. Very interesting.
Brahmi. Yeah, Brahmi, I haven't heard of that.
Bacopa is its other name.
Oh, Bacopa, yeah. Bacopa Monori or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also known as Brahmi from the Brahmins and Lake Brahmi, where it grows. Brahmin were the smart, gifted philosophers, and they all ate a diet of Bacopa. Well, they ate Bacopa in their diet, and maybe that's why they were all so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Cordyceps, very powerful. My male potency blend, I love. I think there's pine pollen in there. We're working on improving that formula as well at the moment. Well, rhodiola. I mean, all of my favorites are in our lineup. You know, that's like I find a herb that I see is very powerful and it finds a place in our lineup. Schisandra is one of the more recent ones that I've fallen in love with, and that's coming into our program. It's going into both our skincare and our tinctures. The new Fountain of Youth formula has Schisandra as part of its update. Astragalus, because of its initiatory properties, working with it in the lab. Yeah, in terms of like, I mean, psilocybin.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Psilocybin and combining botanicals, like for example, high quality cannabis extract or vapable cannabis, like not in liquid form, in like raw herb form. I don't believe in liquid vapes. And then combining them with gently psychoactive herbs, like that have a psycho-spiritual lesson that's a little bit louder. For example, blue lotus. So like, because cannabis, especially aromatic herbs that have psycho-spiritual lessons that are a little louder. That's what I would say. Because cannabis has that endocannabinoid system function, that signaling pathway stimulation and opening action, it's, you know, it can work incredibly in tandem with other botanicals that have aromatic compounds in them. So blue lotus is one that's quite powerful. What else is there? What am I thinking? Magnolia, rose aromatherapy, anything aphrodisiac can be a lot of fun. Like,
yeah.
I've
had a couple actually really good aphrodisiacs. One of them I got from Taylor Durretti, Medicine Buddha Labs, and then another one was from Danielle of Yantra, and they were actually, in terms of taste, very similar. So they must have had some of the similar. Maybe there was an herb or a couple in there that were the same that were used for both of them. That might be common or something, but they were both very effective, very awesome.
I want to say Damiana.
Oh, Damiana. Yeah, I think that is
one of the ingredients.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But yeah, Damiana is definitely very loud. It's a good one, and with cannabis, it's very strong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually makes me feel a bit stoned now because I'm quite a bit more sensitive now. Like when I have Damiana, I feel like I've smoked a joint. It's too much for me.
One thing I will say, the most potent echinacea that I've ever gotten was from Daniel Wiseman. It was like I still have some, and it's almost got like a charge to it, like I'd never experienced that until I had that, because I'm used to, like, you know, just getting some echinacea at the Sprouts or the farmer's market or something.
If echinacea doesn't do that to you, it's not viable.
Okay.
Like it has to be like that. That's what I'm talking about. And of course, Daniel Wiseman's the one that's doing it. It's like, if people are making medicines properly, people are doing extractions properly, and what he's doing to do that, if he's getting it like that, he must be working with that plant very fresh.
I think he does. Yeah.
I try and harvest and extract my echinacea within like 12 hours max.
Oh wow, okay, that quickly, yeah.
And you get that like intense, like metallic
Mhm.
tingling sensation all through your mouth. It's very
It's
intense.
To me,
Quite
it's one of the best things too for if you feel like a sore throat coming on or something. I'll
yeah,
just drip a couple of drops right in my throat and
yeah.
I'm good.
Well, it's just it's an extremely powerful immune system stimulant. And like if we had access to these types of herbal extracts en masse, you know, it would be it would be really revolutionary.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're calling Enki the botanical renaissance now. That's what we're trying to start, the botanical renaissance. I'm sure, like, you know, there's a lot of people out there doing it, which is cool. But
That's one of
like
the
that's what
beauties of having your local biodynamic farm too, because you can do that. Like you can freshly harvest your herbs and process everything right then and there.
it's quintessential to doing a good product. And this is, I think, like this has got to be where the bar is, like the lowest the bar can be is farm to jar. Anything less than that, it's not worth money.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. You know, it's tough to say that, but you know, maybe I'm a utopianist. I don't know, but like I feel that I don't know how before our time I am thinking, but I feel that at a period of time, whether it's in 50 years, whether it's in 500 years, you know, products that aren't done to a level like this will be considered like worthless.
Yeah, 100%.
People won't do them once we understand the benefits of doing them this way and how important it is. You know, why waste
Yeah,
your
and
money? That's shit.
most people just have no idea because even like similar to the thing that you were saying about those studies where they're doing studies on certain effects of plants, but they weren't super high dense, nutrient dense, soil grown, biodynamically
We
grown
don't even
plants.
know. We know that they're active. We know that they're powerful, but we have no idea how active and how powerful they are because this experiment hasn't been done. And I mean, if it's been done before, it's been it's been 12,000 years plus, right?
Yeah.
Before we've experimented with high nutrient density soil, understanding biodynamics properly, applying all of these forces of nature to our soil and to our laboratory methods, and then extracting them at a really high level with philosophical understanding. Like we're not, you know, like to scale like real alchemy, like elixirs and like, you know, very pure things, that's a whole nother level, you know, but doing really good quality essential oils, really good quality spagyric tinctures, you know, good salts and smart extraction techniques to get us close to that so that we're getting all of these compounds at least and we're doing them with consciousness in mind and we're keeping them raw, we're keeping them enzymatically alive. Yeah, it should be revolutionary. It should change. It should change a lot for people. I hope it does.
Yeah, it will. If all goes well, if we don't blow up the world before then.
Fingers crossed, brother. We'll keep praying.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what's like one of the big game changers in terms of something that you've updated in the lab that's really gonna enhance your overall ability to produce
I think
and scale things?
yeah, I think getting our bigger vacuum extraction equipment is paramount. Vacuum extraction is a really interesting one. It enables us to distill something while it's raw without heating it. And so, like, we're not necessarily going over the top of the still. We're not distilling and recondensing, but we're keeping it in the same vessel, vacuuming it, and it's getting a small distillation inside. So those compounds are getting that evolution that we're talking about with the spagyric portal. So getting that to a larger scale that's like one of my big ones that I've been very excited to get going here in the new lab. And the second would be calcinating better. And my problem with calcinating is that everyone's doing it with, and including me, you know, we had to do it with gas. We had to do it with gas. A lot of people, the quickest way to do it, the quickest way to get started, and what everyone recommends is using a, butane torch, which is horrifically toxic. I mean, I wouldn't extract anything with butane. Why would I combust butane all over the top of my herbs?
Yeah, I always kind of felt that way too.
Yeah, so I stopped calcinating when I sort of realized that was an issue. Then I started calcinating at a lower quality in cast iron over fire and forges, and that got pretty good. Ceramics are really hard to scale. Like ceramic crucibles in a forge is obviously the best way to calcinate. But getting heat stable ceramics to hold 10 kilo worth of herbal material, 20 kilo worth of herbal material is impossible. It's not, we can't do it. There's crucibles that fit 100 grams of material are costing you $100. So we have to think a little bit differently. We couldn't use ceramics. We have repurposed a very cool machine, which is now calcinating at 700 degrees and gets, we can set it between 450 and 700. So we can get it hot enough to get our salts to a very pure white level.
How much material can you pack in that?
You can't pack it. It has to be all we have to have a maximum surface area. So it's still small, but it's big enough that we can do it. It means that calcination is now probably the most labor intensive part of what we do for our tincture extracts. But we can do about 5 kilo a batch.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the batch only takes, we pre-do it in a big cast iron paella dish, like a huge one. And then it goes from there into this machine. And yeah, that's a big one. So that's because it's very hard to get our powders to get your powders to white, especially mushrooms, even roots, but mushrooms particularly are next to impossible. It's very difficult to get them to a point where you can purify a quality salt. I question how worth it even is, and I'm doing tests on it at the moment to find out what spectrums of stuff we're getting from that calcination, and specifically how worth it is, because it seems like it's not the same as the plant kingdom. It is a separate kingdom and it needs to be treated as such. But yeah, we're getting to a very white powder. We get a really nice glass. Now we've got our new lab. We're still, the lab's still being set up and finished, but, over the next month or two, we'll expect to start seeing a lot of video and photo content coming out of the lab, which would be really fun. We haven't really been in a place where we've wanted to share it, share the interiors of our labs yet. We've had a few, we've had five labs now over the last 7 years we've been going.
We've had 5 labs? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's kind of ridiculous. One was in our living room for a while. That was early on. The living room laboratory.
Yeah, that's how it all starts though, right? I remember when you were talking about the calcinations, I was trying to do a yarrow spagyric, and so I had all my plant material, and I had like this it was like one of those thin cast iron discs. It's not really like where it has the sidewalls on it, but it was like the only thing I had.
Right.
And so I was just, I had like a fire that I made, and I made a little setup for it on top, and freaking hours go by, and then the wind just came by and just blew it all away. And I was just like devastated. I was like, all that work.
I've lost calcinations to the wind before too.
Yeah.
It can be very disappointing. I think no one really we're not prepared well for calcinations. I think that it's always, I think one of the biggest hurdles is the salts. It's a lot of work. It certainly was for us. Like, we really wanted to do it before we could, and we had problems and this and that, and we wouldn't get it pure enough, and sometimes we'd have a batch where I wasn't happy with the salts, and so it's definitely been good to stability and scaling it. I mean, this is the thing. It's like starting a company is one thing, scaling a company is a totally different thing. Like, you can have a great idea, scaling that idea that's what makes a business. And so that's been really big and tough for us. But we're getting there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like
we're
you're
sort of
saying.
now in the space where we feel like most of our kinks are ironed out, you know?
Yeah.
And now we can focus on expanding and increasing the, you know, what the recipes of the, you know, I mean, that's the skincare is becoming another big inspiration again now, because we can really step it up and empower it with a lot of live stuff, like really alive extracts.
I'm definitely going to be getting some of your skincare stuff. I'm all about the skincare these days. So
Definitely try us out, man. You'll love it. It's very we just released our prototype mask as well. So that's joining the official skincare lineup in end of February. But we did a little pre-release for our mailing list, and it went off. So that was really good. So we're going to get some feedback from there. I'll see if I've got one in the lab, and if you are going to grab some things, I'll slot it in there for you.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say when we were talking about the calcination thing, it's exactly like you're saying with like the scaling factor. One of my friends in Hawaii, he did have a really good method, like you were saying with the not cast iron, but he like created like a little forge or something of some kind, um, in ceramic, I think. But and it was working really effectively, but definitely couldn't do like large scale amounts of material in such a little like area.
Yeah, that's what's difficult. Oh, sorry. Yes, that's what's difficult. It's yeah, it's a big thing to try and scale up. Okay, we're gonna go look at the lab.
All right, let's check it out. Excited.
Enki Organics Zoom on your laptop. Let's see if I make it. We'll go now.
You can make it to a plug-in.
How's my connection?
It seems pretty good so far.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Nice. I've only got a few minutes, but I thought I'd give you a quick tour of our lab in process.
All right.
Actually, I can probably, maybe with this new Wi-Fi, I can show you some of the farming as well. But that's our, yeah, this is us.
Wow, that's lovely. It's got some nice sunlight coming through too.
This is where I was going to sit for our chat. Yeah, some great light from the roof. It's all, we've done the whole thing in this amazing material. This is Durapanel. It's an Australian made locally. It's compressed straw, and we've impregnated it with biochar. So this is going to filter. Our whole lab is a big air filter.
Whoa. Wow.
Beautiful where there be dragons. Kit here. So this is like my small format, and then this is all my big format gear. Yeah, that's all what we're working with. Some nice pieces. There's still a lot of equipment that's still not here yet. And then over the other side, we've got our sort of more production focused area with the stainless and stuff. Dispatched through here, which is where we're sending all of our supply out.
Bottling operation.
Yeah, I've got a beautiful old blackboard that's going up for all of our, that weighs about 200 kilos. And yeah, then, you know, we've got a lot of in production stuff. I wonder if I can switch my camera around here. Apparently not. Oh yeah, I can.
Oh, awesome. Are you doing fermentations too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not for commercial, not for our commercial. I mean, we do a lot of stuff here that's not for our brand, you know.
Yeah.
Beautiful bergamot just came off. I'm just trying this out for tea. It's wonderful. We distilled some of it already. Never seen bergamot so lush. If only you could smell it. Yeah, some nice herbs from our gardens. Interesting trials in the next room. But yeah, so yeah, we do a lot of like, there's a few like little elixir projects and things going on here that aren't for Enki, you know.
Looks like a lot of interesting stuff going on in there.
Yeah, this is my mind over the last little while. Some great hydrosols and different yeah, lots of things to collect. This is probably the most interesting shelf, is when the jars and bottles get smaller. Yeah, and that's a lot of my finished oils and things over here that aren't available, obviously, on the website. Yeah. So that's our lab. It's beautiful to have it. It feels great.
Nice workspace, that table in the middle.
So this is often full of bottling equipment and et cetera, et cetera. But it's pretty chill today here. And then that's the house. And I wonder how far my Wi-Fi will take you. That's Loki.
Yeah.
You want to say hi, buddy?
Loki.
The blue-eyed trickster. He's not showing you he's got two bright blue eyes, but you wouldn't know the way he's acting. And then, so up there is our farm. I can't walk you up, but you can start to see a lot of the work we're doing there.
Nice.
So there's 20 acres here all up for us. And we're terracing this field here that you can see in the middle of the screen. There's actually Mr. James is up there doing some cultivation now. So we're just terracing all of that. We've got 4 big terraces, about 2 acres now under cultivation. And that's all, no-till, raised, nutrient-dense, biodynamic stuff. That's the color of our soil.
Beautiful.
Beautiful volcanic red. And that's, like I said, 100 feet deep. And the property came with some really beautifully established trees. That's a birch. This is my little druid glade. It's just, birch is not native to Australia, but there's just a beautiful little birch glade here for me to sit in.
Oh, that's lovely.
Some ginkgo trees, which are quite small and still need to be established. A beautiful lotus pond down here, which the Wi-Fi won't get me to, and some great ash and yew trees. Some really cool stuff. Old heritage apples and plums and figs and chestnuts. All those, European heritage varieties, which is what we get here,
That's
what we can grow here, So this is our little life out here where we make everything.
Man, I love it. I love what you're doing with those walls too. With the
It's still a work in progress as well. We still have a big glass. We still have to seal it. So once it's sealed, this is all going to be glass here, and that will enable the great wall filter to happen. But yeah, as you can see, we haven't painted it yet. We thought we might leave it natural for a little while because it's kind of a cool, craft look.
Do you have do you ever utilize any copper stills? Do you feel like that's
yeah. They're probably, it's funny, most of my copper's not here right now. So all of these big stills, so these are all in pieces at the moment, but this and this are my Gemini twins.
Nice.
So they have the same full rig out that we designed ourselves. So they have big glass parts. They've got sock slit attachments. They've got beautiful essential oil separators. And they have copper alembic heads, which at the moment, I'm not sure, they must be off-site in one of the smaller stills. Someone's using them, obviously. They have different copper sections for the right applications, but predominantly I like glass, which is why a lot of those attachments are glass. I much prefer glass. And I was doing a lot of my stuff in large format 20-liter glass. That's about as big as you can get, unless you're the guy in Hawaii who blows his own glass.
Yeah.
So now we're way beyond that. We're really looking at these larger. The Gemini twins are pretty cool because they've been designed to be not only steam distillers, they are also agitating vessels. They are they're vacuumable, so we can put them under vacuum so they can vac distill, but they can also vacuum extract. They have sock slit attachments, so we can do circulations in them. So they're pretty cool. And for doing spagyric elixirs, which we're still not even with this size equipment, we're still not at scale to be a commercially viable business. It's just small mailing list only, extractions currently. And for a time, that's going to be how it is. But yeah, we're doing goldenrod we're about to do goldenrod. We'll probably get 50, 60 vials, which will be nice. But, one day we're going to need to be doing much bigger distillations. But we can run these, that's still just the Gemini twins. They run together and they can go into the same condenser. So that's running 2 of them, for a couple of days. But if we had significantly more herbal material growing on site, we could run them for 2 weeks and then we could get, 1,000 bottles.
And then so that little top piece that you showed it was like a glass top. You said that was an essential oil extractor, like attachment thing or something?
Yeah, it's a separator. Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have it still rigged up. If you ever visit our shop, you can see them all there. That's where, some of them are in the apothecary on display and then the little stills in use. But yeah, that's like an essentia. Have you an essentia?
I think I've heard of it.
Well, you've got various, again, my favorite essentia is not here. You've got like separatory funnels.
Yeah.
And then you've got, like these guys. So that's an essentia, a traditional lab essential oil separator. It's a very big one. And so basically this is the same idea.
Oh, okay.
This hooks up to a pelican head, like a distillation pelican head. Anyway, and so you can use gravity to separate your essential oils out, which is nice. Yeah, so it's all about just getting those bigger scale things going and without using shitty equipment like everyone else. Like all the suppliers want to give you cheap equipment. All the people, manufactured in China, everyone's buying off Alibaba. And, it can work, but you can't be innovative. Your design, it's hard for your design to be innovative if you go, I won't learn anything about distillation equipment. I'll just buy distillation equipment and then I should be right. You're never going to learn anything. You've got to learn equipment. You've got to learn how to design and manufacture your equipment. And then you can have much more power and control over what you're doing. So I definitely recommend people really understand the science of distillation before they buy their equipment.
Yeah.
Even then, every iteration of equipment is different. I've got 100-liter stills that I don't use because I don't like them.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. There's 100-liter still sitting in the window of the apothecary that I've literally never used because I don't like it.
What is just in terms of the way that they function? It's just a lot more, or like you're saying, it doesn't allow you the flexibility, or what?
Yeah, well, that one I'm really pissed off about because I got it manufactured in China and all the seals have a synthetic silicon in them. And it's totally disgusting and they're like glued in and it's all so I stripped a lot of parts of the glue myself with solvents and like cleaned them up, but the main still itself I'm not using.
Yeah Respect.
So you got to that's our commitment, right? Zero synthetics, zero plastics touching our stuff.
Oh man, that's amazing. What a beautiful environment that you have over there.
Yeah, Dowsford's a beautiful spot. Yeah, it's very special.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty much out of time, Skylar, but
I greatly appreciate the time that you did take today. And yeah, man, thank you so much. It's been a really fun one. I'm sure that you're going to have some cool videos and photos to come once you get your lab all set up. So I'll be looking forward to that.
Definitely looking forward to sharing them. It's going to be fun.
Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to throw out there before you sign off?
I've got a beautiful magnolia flower looking at me that I'll just show to you and the viewers for our sign off. How's that?
Sounds great. Oh, wow. Wowzers. It's a beautiful one.
Lovely established magnolia. We have a lot of it on some of the other properties we work as well. We have some beautiful magnolia trees, but one of my favorites. You ever smelt it? Magnolia grandiflora?
No, I haven't.
Very high in indole and like big flower. Like this is a juvenile tree. Sometimes the flowers are like as big as my head. Yeah, very white flower, indoor leaf, full of magnolol, very powerful, very aphrodisiac. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. Bye for now. Thanks so much, mate. Lovely to chat.
Yeah.
See you again soon.
All right.
Bye.